part 2 of the How to Master the Handstand series. This one is just how to bridge the gap from like handstand holds to actually be able to do your first handstand push-up. The number one thing that people mess up on when they're trying to get their handstand journey was not understanding that the fact that they weren't freaking strong enough to hold the handstand properly yet. And the way you can tell is just like, if you struggle to hold the handstand for 5 to 10 seconds, don't even try to do the handstand push-up unless you're going to be like super Speedy Gonzalez, handstand push-up like that, which I doubt you'll be able to. Literally spam the basics. Literally do it until it's like too easy for you to even consider doing that as an actual workout. The hardest and easiest part on learning the handstand push-up, the hardest part is just the balance. The next part's just building up the strength, which is what most people are going to lack in. And in that department, I recommend for be able to do, I'd say at least 5 good deep handstand push-ups. And I'm talking all the way to where like your face is past the ground and you press all the way up with ease. If you can't do that, don't even finish watching this video. Go back and keep training, because it's just not going to be good for you if you keep trying to do it or brute force it. So when you're trying to bridge the gap from handstand to handstand push-up, it's important to realize that it's not just a strength move and it's not just a skill move. It's both at once, which makes it super, super hard to learn. Because not only, let's say, okay, I'm like 160, 158, I'm doing an overhead press of my body weight. And not only that, an overhead press of my body weight is actually easier because I'm not trying to balance it as much as I am me being upside down and blood rushing to my head. So whenever you're trying to do the handstand push-up, it's important to try to train both of these skills separately. So you want to have dedicated, and I actually spoke about a little bit about this in the first video, but you essentially just want to master the balance first and build the strength separately. So ideally you'd want to train the balance before your before your like strength workout, and then you could train any like intense shoulder strengthening exercises afterwards. But the way to like basically speed run it kind of and like skip the bullshit is just to be able to be comfortably strong in all angles of the handstand. So what I mean by that is that in the last video I told you to like try different hand positions. I want you to be able to be comfortable enough doing diamond handstands, wide handstands, handstands where like one's like this and you got fingertips. Try to do handstands to where it's just like you're able to do it as like second nature, and that just makes the whole handstand journey, handstand push-up, a lot easier, because you're taking one element, and it's the hardest element, out of the equation, and you could just crank out handstand push-ups. Because, there's plenty of people who could hold a handstand for a while, but as soon as they like bend their arms, they're falling on the ground. And the exact opposite is true. People who can crank handstand push-ups on a wall, but they can't, balance up and down. So I'm going to explain the balance portion of the handstand push-up. There's 2 ways to do the handstand push-up. One is perfect, so-called perfect form or gymnastics form, where you're straight the whole time, and when you're going down kind of like leaning forward, kind of like a sway or like a pendulum. So you're straight up like this, and then you're pushing down, leaning forward, and then you press back up in straight lines. The other way to do the handstand push-up is kind of like a ghetto way, or kind of like the street workout form, where they just crank it out. So they're basically in the banana hold position, where their shoulders are out, legs are kind of curled over, and then they just go straight up and down. But they're like curled over, so they're kind of like this, and they're just going up and down like that, instead of, straight up and down. So you can do either one. Personally, depending on what your goals are, and if you want to just be able to do the handstand push-up and then master it over time, you can definitely just do the banana form. That's how I learned it at first, and then over time I'm now able to do it however form I want to. So the next part would just be combining the strength and balancing aspects. The best like exercises I consider, or forms of practice, it would just be moves like the pike press plus. And the pike press plus isn't really like the bunch of a famous exercise. You really just hear pike push-ups or handstand presses or L-sits to handstands. Those are all great exercises as well. But what I like to do is that when I do my pike push-up or my pike push-up plus, what I basically do is that I continue leaning so far forward that I press my fingers into the ground and my legs slowly start lifting up, and then I feel like that burden on my shoulders of what an actual handstand push-up is going to feel like on the bottom position. That literally blew up my progress, because the hardest part of the handstand push-up is that bottom part most of the time, and just being able to do that practice over and over again, you're just going to be able to crank them out when you actually try your handstand push-up attempts. The next thing for handstand push-ups, it would have to be actually just I'm gonna be completely honest. It's not gonna be some secret BS technique. You're just not freaking strong enough to do the handstand push-up. The handstand push-up is your body weight as an overhead press while balancing. If you can freaking balance the handstand and do overhead press of your body weight for several reps, you will be able to do it. Now, the question is on what exercise that would be best in terms of building that strength up. That is very subjective. But for me, my personal favorites for building up strength, the simpler the better. It's just either basic handstand push-ups or weighted handstand push-ups against the wall. So I'm taking the balancing aspect out of it so I can just focus on brute force. Then I have just weighted dips or push-up variations. Just stuff that'll completely torch my shoulders into the ground. That way, when I go back into a handstand, it's just going to be light work. Okay, now this is the most important part, which is basically your form during the handstand push-up and your handstand push-up strengthening exercises. Or what I just mean is just like your form during trying to do handstand push-ups and your form trying to do pike push-ups or handstand push-up variations. It's very important that you have consistency amongst all of them, because you can't do pike push-ups in like a banana form. Or what the mistake I did that like killed my progress was the fact that I never did pike push-ups properly. I kind of just did it as like an elevated push-up and just got mostly my chest muscles built up instead of my shoulders. So what I need you to do is, if you're going to do a variation, make sure you're putting the load on your shoulders. Your shoulders are the only thing that's moving you through this handstand push-up, and it doesn't make sense to build your upper chest up. Handstand push-up and for the banana handstand push-up, if you're going to train one of those, or if you're going to train both of those, or if you're going to train one then eventually get the other, make sure that the form is consistent. I would actually recommend that you train the prerequisites, like the handstand, like the L-sit to handstand, or the pike press or the pike push-ups. Train those perfectly as if you're trying to get the perfect handstand, like straight form, everything, and then, keep trying to just do the handstand push-up however you can, even if it's a little ugly. Then slowly over time, you can start to perfect it. That's just, in my opinion, how you can do it. It's a little unorthodox. Some people be like, train perfect from the beginning, but the handstand is just, it is honestly one of like a very, very complicated move, but I'm simplifying it for everybody because, in all honesty, this is like the bare bones you need. Get strong so you can press yourself up and down and be able to hold it while you're moving in that space. The next thing I can recommend for like unorthodox, like my favorite personal unorthodox exercises, it would just be handstand push-ups with your buddy holding your feet, weighted negative handstand push-ups. You can do those, then like you're gonna get the handstand push-up eventually, but take your time, because you can really injure yourself with this move. And I've injured myself just because, well, one, I wasn't warming up, but also it's just like that intensity of like jumping from like pike push-ups and then all the way to handstand push-ups. It's like jumping from like 45 pounds to 100 pounds. It's a very, very large increment in weight. And I actually busted up my elbows, my sternum, my shoulder joints, my wrists, just because I was trying to just like fast pace through getting the handstand push-up. So don't rush. Next video will just be about how to master the handstand push-up. So I hope this video helps, and I'll see you.